to the Cinementalists. Noun, plural. Definition, those whose love for movies runs so deep, they can't help but do a podcast about them. Hosted by Colton Robertson and Joseph George. Hello everybody and welcome in to the Cinementalist. Today we continue our coverage of the Indiana Jones franchise with its second installment, Temple of Doom. It was released on May 23rd, 1984, with a story by George Lucas and a screenplay by Willard Huyck and Gloria Katz. It was directed by Steven Spielberg. I'm Colton Robertson. I'm joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
Oh, what up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And what is up? Back like he never left, KBZ Kyler Barnett.
What's going on?
Happy to have you. Happy to have you back, my friend, especially to discuss such a blunderous, wonderful film like Temple of Doom. I love this movie. Now, if you listened to Raiders last week, you'll remember that I touted this as amongst my least favorite indie movies, and I do stand by that. It's bottom three. I'm excited to revisit them, but we'll see. I love this movie, and I think I've gotten my deepest appreciation I've ever gotten out of it on this watch, trying to view it through a little bit more of an analytical lens than I ever have. How are you feeling, Joe? Was this a first viewing, a second viewing? I can't remember.
Kind of. I watched it one time on vacation. It was late at night. I had to watch it. The volume was super low. It was just a terrible watch, and I think I ended up falling asleep too. So just a terrible watch. This is my first kind of reel. I remembered up until not even really halfway through the movie. So this watch was, I gave it its due diligence, and I do see why. This is a step down from Raiders, at least for me. Raiders, enjoyment-wise, I guess overall everything is just firing on all cylinders with Raiders. Here, there's just some things that I can give or take. But maybe it was just that first time of kind of expecting the level that I got from Raiders the whole time. But I mean, it still had its classic indie flair. I still gave this a 4.5.
It still has a 5 on Letterboxd for me. Yeah. Okay. So I don't want to undersell it as being bad by any stretch. KBZ, how are you feeling about Temple of Doom?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've watched these so closely packed together like I am right now for these episodes. Maybe when I was a kid, I probably had a day where I spun all three, on a snow day or something. But I mean, that's not the same as what we're trying to do now. And I don't know, it's just so weird to watch them this close together and see the differences. This is obviously going prequel time frame. Yeah. For Indiana Jones, so it's supposed to be a younger version, and I think that comes through in some of the ways he acts, and I do like the way they thread the needle of hey, kind of the subtle reminders, hey, this is a prequel. There's a scene where you can remember in Raiders, the iconic moment where he just pulls out the gun and shoots the guy instead. There's a scene at the end that I kind of loosely had forgotten about, and, he goes to reach for the gun and it's not there. And it's there's a subtle reminder, hey,
he'll never not have his gun on his hip again.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You get some of those little things, which those are fun. It's a certain kind of campiness, to that regard, the way it's executed that is kind of fun. Definitely the story, like I said, I don't know. I guess I'm just so much more into I don't know. Just the dynamics from Raiders with some of the characters and some of the plot devices and stuff are just totally different in this movie. And that doesn't always hit, but I still love the movie. The set design is arguably some of the best, I think, maybe
ever
in this one.
Yeah.
The set design is out of this world. And just, I will say some of the action sequences and fight sequences they kind of really push the fold in this one, creatively speaking, with those. And I really enjoyed that. There are some, like I said, just some of the stuff that goes on, I always love the psychological / like spiritual nature of these movies. They always dive into them, no matter how much like bare knuckle boxing you're gonna see and fighting in these movies. Like it somehow
there's always a
circles back to
mystical,
something much grander. Yes,
no, and I do appreciate that. There's a heart to this movie that I can really appreciate. One of the things that I have a tough time with is that we are dealing with quite the portrayal of real cultures and real places. Not, when you compare it to the way they portrayed real Nazis, it's like, but if you look into the, Pankot, or you look into the Thuggee, no, not quite this. Not quite like that. It's a little, I mean, whenever they're all gathered around the table and they're eating, live snakes and monkey brains and all that, it's like, okay, come on now. But it wouldn't be a story by George Lucas if it wasn't vaguely racist in some capacity. He's got a knack. He's got a knack for he's got a knack for making stereotypes as flagrant as he possibly can. But
that dinner scene was rough.
Oh,
like,
it's bad.
I mean, I thought like maybe they were gonna spin it in a way of like they're trying to get them to leave, so they're just feeding them, this crap that they wouldn't want. But it's like, no, this is
what they eat,
going,
and it's like, okay, well, that's not true.
Yeah,
and that's one of those things that's tough to stomach, and it also has a flair of a white savior complex to a degree, which is. This doesn't do it on the level I've seen other things do it. There is an interesting, like, I do appreciate that it's based in local beliefs. They're like, we needed somebody to come help. This just went missing. You show up at random. Like, at least there's like a cause and effect. They're not just like, help us, Indiana Jones. You're our only hope. Please.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's but even so, there's still that flair there. It ultimately pays off, I think, in a meaningful way. But there's just some stuff, and I wanted to get it out of the way up top because those are my glaring issues with the movie. Are stuff like that. I think that it's other than that, I kind of view this as a misunderstood masterpiece of sorts. Now there are those are glaring flaws which prevent it from being as good as Raiders, or as The Last Crusade. But there is a flair that Spielberg puts on display here that he never showcases with any of the other indie movies. We kick off the movie with a musical number, and the musical number literally tells you anything goes. We are going to throw shit at the wall, and you are going to sit back and fucking watch it. It's almost a warning. Anything goes. Get ready for it. And
in Chinese at the beginning too. Yeah. Right. Like for whatever reason, like maybe they're just like throwing races in there to get you ready for.
Well, she's also performing in China.
Oh, okay. That's true.
Yeah, they are in China, which does make that relevant. But my favorite scene, actually, I wanted to go with something later. I can't. It's the first scene, right after the musical number, when all the chaos lets loose. When they're sitting at the table and they're passing the coin back and forth, and the camera follows it on the turnstile, and then they pass it back, and all. I love that sequence. It's wonderful. Oh, sorry.
I have always wanted one of those spinny things in the middle of the table. I always just thought that was the toughest way to negotiate in all time. Just yes, here's the remains of the first emperor
of the Manchu dynasty.
Okay, here's your coin. Oh, nope, that's not a diamond. Have the coin back. No,
I love it, and it's also methodical. They don't do it quickly. Yeah. It's obviously an inconvenience to set it on the middle of the table and then spin it like this, but it looks cool, so they all do it. And I absolutely
it builds
love it.
The tension.
Oh, it does, and I love one of the things that I love is that it really sets the tone for the younger Indy. it shows you that he's much. Even though he was already kind of roguish, he's much more fast and loose with the rules than he was even in Raiders.
Yes.
He's willing to hold a woman hostage. He's obviously not. He wouldn't kill her.
He decked a woman. Cold clocked a woman like 5 minutes after what we're just talking about. I mean, yes, I know he didn't, but he did
full on. Yeah, that will. Damn.
I had no recollection of that whatsoever.
He's poisoned. A lot's going on. He's letting fists fly. No. I think she catches a stray.
I wouldn't claim he deliberately picked out a woman and said, "Yep, it's my time to shine." I just wanted. He did do that.
No, he did.
No, there's so much to love in that sequence, though. There's so many little things that, like, when you think of the grand scene itself and like some of the highlight big time moments, like obviously he cuts the gong down and then the guy sprays the Tommy gun while they run behind the gong. Like that sound, the bullets, everything about it. I mean, just the detail.
I love it. I mean, it's just the sheer chaos, dude. Like this feeds on exactly what the first what Raiders succeeded at in its action sequences and turns it up to fucking 11. It's like, you loved the chaos. You loved, oh my God, how do you keep track of all this? But the diamond falling on the ground, Willie trying to find it, him trying to get the poison, them crossing paths, the balloon descending, them crawling all over the floor, the ice bucket dumping out. Now she can't find the diamond. Like I love that whole fucking sequence. The part where the waiter points the gun under the tray.
Yes, that's what I was. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I
love that scene with the pops of the champagne bottles to disguise. Like, so, like, I don't know, it marries the, like, espionage, like, typical, like, SWAT, and then the chaos of Indiana Jones all at once. Like, it's like...
This is the first sequence that's really played on the idea that Spielberg made this because he couldn't make Bond. He's wearing the suit, and he's got the, and he's doing the whole, he's playing fast and loose with the rules, and he's doing this undercover thing. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure this has obviously been passed down to The Last Jedi, where like the Master Codebreaker is wearing this exact outfit in The Last Jedi and Canto Bight. But I'm pretty sure Indy gets it from Bond preceding him. So like there's a interesting delineation of this costume design that I really, really appreciate. And I mean, like, I just love the aesthetics of the sequence. I love the chaos of the sequence. I love the action. I love the character work. It really establishes instantly who Indy is in this movie, who Willie is as the companion, and then we meet Short Round at the end of it, who is just absolutely my favorite character of the movie. Love Short Round.
Easily, right? I mean, is he getting the character from All of Us? I'm curious. I mean, from me, 100%. I figured from you, Colton, as well. I don't know, Kyler.
I'm wearing the Short
He's
Round
always
shirt.
Been like one of my
I don't want to peer
favorites,
pressure
like,
you into
all time.
it.
No. Like this was already like predetermined. Like as a kid, I always was like, that's the dream. You're young enough for Indy to like look out for you as a father, but you're his friend, and he leans on you like a friend. Like that's the dream. Like, hey, when I need you to like, kind of be like a role model type dad type figure for me, you can be that. But then we can just be friends.
We can be
too.
homies. Dude, like, my favorite line of the movie is Keyquan delivering, "Indy, I love you. You're my best friend, Indy."
You're my best friend.
Oh, dude, fucking guts me. It's so cute, man. Oh, dude. And this was a first viewing for Emily, which was a fun thing to show her. Because when Keyquan popped up on the screen, she got so fucking excited. And it just speaks to how recognizable he's remained. I mean, he essentially looks and sounds the same.
Dang.
And
that's weird. Yeah,
I mean, obviously he's much more aged and his voice is a little older, but he sounds like it's not much different. And
well, he's like he's been able to do this over like, it wasn't like he's like had just decades and like it was like Goonies, Indiana Jones, and then there was this like lull period where like I don't know, he just didn't get much work and stuff, and then
everything ever
the
all
resurgence.
At once.
It's just like no one like him and Brendan Fraser are just such anomalies in the sense of like usually like people whose careers take that dip. Like you see a lot of people who you loved as children or you loved in like their early roles and stuff just don't really.
Well, that's what makes Keyquan's story even more fucking shocking. Is that at least Brendan Fraser was at one point a leading man, You know, like Keyquan
that's
did
true.
this,
That's very
like
true.
he did this supporting actor, like, and you know, it's a little bit of a bit part, like that's kind of the thing here. But Spielberg and the screenplay and Keyquan and Ford really give him a heart that makes him an important character, you know, and to have seen his resurgence in a way that has made him, I mean, a name in Hollywood. Like people want Keyquan and things, you know. Like one of the things that's always a little sad, a little gut wrenching, is that Disney couldn't have predicted a Keyquan resurgence. Otherwise, he almost certainly would have been in Dial of Destiny as like an important role. You know, like he almost definitely would have been in that movie, but he's not, and that kind of blows. But frankly, there's also the perspective that's like, you should have held it down a little bit. Bring Short Round back, bro. What the fuck going on? You know, like even if he wasn't having a resurgence, why not have Short Round around? You know, like there's a TikTok that is just one of my favorites. It was in anticipation of Dial of Destiny. And it was this guy who was like, what your conservative 60-year-old grandpa thinks the new Indiana Jones movie will be. And it's like old Indy being like, you know, back in my day, me and Sala explored each other's bodies, you know, he's like, my pronouns are he, him, what are yours? You know, like all that stuff. And he goes, Short Round had a name, damn it, we should have called him it. You know, like it's just one of those, it's so fucking funny. And it is funny to think about things like that, but it's just so like, there's such a personality behind the movie that I have a tough time. I can accept its faults and I can recognize them, but god damn do I love watching this movie. And like I said, my favorite scene is the beginning because it just gets you fucking going. It gets you in the headspace. It gets you ready for anything going. And I just adore it. And I'm actually going with a sleeper for my performance. I'm absolutely going Kate Capshaw as well. I think she catches an awful rep for this movie. She is notoriously othered as the negative part of the movie. And the character is annoying. I get it. But that's what she's doing. There's an element to her.
That's the point.
Yeah, there's an element to her that, you know, I compared Karen Allen and Harrison Ford's chemistry to like 30s, 40s screwball comedies with like a little bit of an Audrey Hepburn thing, a little bit of a Cary Grant sort of bringing up baby vibe that they had going on. This one plays much more on the Western, which I had never realized. Because its aesthetics are about as far away from a Western as you can possibly get. So I never really realized that the story mechanics operate in a similar way. Indy is a lot more like the cowboy. His performance is emanating John Wayne and Gregory Peck and these guys who appeared in old Westerns. And his foil is Marilyn Monroe or Shirley MacLaine. And that's much more what Willie Scott and what Kate Capshaw is doing. Is she is like, after having watched some Marilyn Monroe, that is who she is being. That is who she is trying to be. And it reminds me of River of No Return with Marilyn Monroe and Robert Mitchum, that old Western. And that's kind of the vibe they bring a little bit more because he's a lot more dismissive. He's a lot more macho. He's a lot more hotshot. He doesn't have anything to prove, but he's eager to show off, that's what a cowboy and a Western is, and that's kind of what he's bringing to the role. So, right. And there's like these wide shots that could have been, you know, whenever they're riding on elephants. In a Western, that's them trotting across the countryside on horseback, and like there's all sorts of stuff that I feel is, I mean, like, and to connect it again to a much more grounded side of it is, you know, white folks battling indigenous people on their land. You know, there's a little bit more of and making the cowboy the hero and them the villains. You know, it's there is a very, very much so a Western flair going on here that I'd never clocked until I watched this. Mostly because I think I've watched more Westerns than I ever have in between the last time I watched this and this time I watched this. So it was cool to see that kind of come through, and specifically through Kate Capshaw and Ford's chemistry. It plays like the cowboy and the damsel. And I really, really liked that.
Yeah. Yeah, those were all. I really liked your thoughts there. Those were all kind of some terms like I took down, like foil. That was something that came into my mind. Like sometimes she is like, they almost make it to where it's not that she's so much working against him, but she's almost serving more like a distraction to what's happening to some note. But that's what makes like those moments where she does finally come through and snap out of it. Like she gets there. They don't just kind of, I guess, damn her to that the whole time. She has her moments where she comes through and does the things and stuff. Like she finally sticks her hand through the little crack in the wall. But first of all, can we talk about the trope of just anytime there is a treacherous setting where any character is and there are animals, bugs, snakes, anything involved, there is the most ridiculously absurd amount of said bugs, snakes, and animals. Every time. It's like across all of the movies. Like I can think when they're in the pit in Raiders, all the snakes.
Well
it's like Souls. The most ridiculous amount of snakes. Like an impossible amount of snakes. They walk through when they push the cornerstone of the wall and push it in, and they go in and they start making their way into the temple. And it's bugs. It's just the most ridiculous amount of bugs you've ever seen. All kinds of bugs.
It's slimy in there. And then, I love. That's my thing. Is that like Karen Allen as Marion Ravenwood will always be my favorite love interest of Indies. That's just how it's going to be, you know.
Yeah.
But I do think that and because of that, I feel like people sell Willie Scott short. There's an inevitability to the fact that they're not going to work out. She is obviously the foil, and it's obvious even in their chemistry that they are not going to work. Like that's just how it is.
Yeah.
But even despite that, I love her presence in this movie, man. I think she deserves a little more love than she typically gets. Because I think she's fun, you know. I love the sequence whenever Short Round and Indy are playing cards and she's running around the campsite finding horror after horror and screaming and you're cheating, you're no fun to play with, you're cheating. And you know, like that the uncut gems chaos of it all. I absolutely adored his Girl Friday sort of vibe that they've got going. It was so much fun, man. And that's ultimately what this movie ends up being. You know, it takes a much more dark tone than the first one, and any other indie movie. But Lucas has said that that's a reflection of the real life circumstance that both Spielberg and Lucas were going through at the time. And there's a resulting dismissiveness of the woman in this movie that Harrison Ford has.
Yeah, I was going to say.
As Lucas and Spielberg were both going through divorces when they made this movie.
Yeah. When you said that last week, it immediately, like in my head, I could picture the performance I was about to watch, and it all added up. But actually watching the movie now, like it's
the most divorced dude movie of all time.
Cut. Hang on. Harrison, I want you to picture, like, this woman over here just said this to you. She said she's taking the car. Said she's taking. I want you to pretend.
Well,
that's
it's funny
because
she's never.
It's like
unreasonable, you know. She was thrust into a situation that she had no intention of riding along for. She ends up on a crashed plane in the middle of India. I'd be pretty upset about my circumstance too, you know, but there's a point whenever she's like screaming and Harrison just goes, "Shut up, Willie." And like, that's all he says. And it is so fucking funny. And that's like, cause that's just exact, like, you know exactly where that came from if you know the behind the scenes of what's going on. And it's just so, there's a sadness to it, but there's also a hilarity to it, you know?
Usually you just get walls that come from the sides that smush you, but this just takes it to a whole nother level with this cone spike steroid wall crusher. Whenever she's trying to come save them, and then Indy's just like, "Shut up, come here, please, please shut up."
There's 2 dead
just
people
get
out
over
here. There's got to be 2 dead people in here. Yeah.
Me too. The best line from that whole sequence is when it just slow zooms through a like very narrow hole, and it's just Indy's face, and he's like this, and he's like, we are going to die.
Willie, we are gonna die. And he gives this like smile. He like kind of smiles through the
he's got
through
this
the hole.
raised face on. It's
like,
wonderful. And that's why, like, I think that there is no indie movie is as chaotic as this one. There are very few movies you'll ever find that are quite as chaotic as this one. But the fact that it never loses itself is really, really fascinating. It's a contained chaos. There's never like, well, why are we doing this? Why is this thread being where we're going? You know, like, no, like everything manages to tie up in a relatively neat way, which is, I don't know how they managed that.
Neat logic chaos somehow. Like it was chaotic the whole time, but it does feel.
And that's what's funny is that like
it really does feel like.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it feels like the way that they wrote this movie was they would start with like individual acts and just say, okay, what's the first thing we're gonna do look like, and the last thing we're gonna do. Whatever's in the middle, we'll figure it out. We're smart enough people. We won't fuck this up. But just let us
and I think it's
there.
a really good reflection of Spielberg and Lucas as creatives, where they were like, let's fucking throw shit at the wall. But they weren't just going to throw shit at the wall. They're too, like, Spielberg specifically is too focused on the craft to just let something not work. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's got to make it happen. And I appreciate that.
I mean, I think from a like fulfillment standpoint, like not to read too much into the whole like divorce aspect of that, the real life, but I mean, like, think about it. They probably did want to take some risks and really make some, push the fold, just throw themselves into their work and make something that they truly, like creatively everything, push the fold and take risk. I mean, that sounds about, I guess, right. And I mean, to me, so there's so many, like, I just love these movies for, like, all of the tropes. I just sit here and I can think of, like, so many different little things that just, like, only Indiana Jones does the way they do. Like, he dodges poison. Like, the way he just dodges poison. Now, this movie, he actually does get it, but he dodges it the first time. Which, if you remember in Raiders, Sala smacks the date away after the monkey eats it and says, bad dates. And then he's trying to drink the drink that's got the poison, and then Willie bumps him or whatever and stops him from drinking it the first time. And, like, there's just so much little stuff that, like, those little things, like, it just feels so singular to Indiana Jones. Like, I can't think of any movie trilogy where there is, like, as much trope, like, level stuff that just feels so in line with the character. Like, it's never there for just, like, any other reason. Like, it just paints the picture. Like, this is the type of... Yeah, I mean...
I want to ask, do you think James Gunn loves this movie the most out of the indie movies?
Would not
specifically, the 5 stones that come together, and when they're together, this is... I would love if this is like his original inspiration for the
that
Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
Or, and like the,
his
I don't know, but I guess they were a thing in
yeah.
comics, but like, in Guardians. And then also, I mean, this reminded me so much of Scooby-Doo, like Spooky Island, legit. Like, I mean, it almost just like, I don't know.
Sure
I feel like James Gunn
there's certainly a reverence that movie has for the indie movies because, I mean, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but is the thing that the souls are possessed in not literally called the Well of Souls?
It's the Well of Souls. Yeah, I
which
think
is
so.
what the first what Raiders has. Like, I'm like, I'm pretty sure there is a lot of reverence.
I got massive Scooby-Doo vibes off of this movie, or just massive James Gunn inspiration vibes. Obviously not like him being a part of this movie, but just I saw him loving this movie a lot.
I could see that too.
And then just being like, I'm gonna put some stuff in. I don't know,
100%.
And were the other 2 stones right there, just in the skull? Like, Indy was like tied up, and their leader kind of was talking to him. And he was like, yeah, we have the 3, they were there, and they were kind of lit up, I think. And then, like, above the evil guy, there was, like, a skull, and then in the eyes were 2 they looked like the rock, like the other two missing rocks. I don't know, and because he said like the previous person hid them in the cave or something, and that's why they're digging for them. Isn't that right? Like that's why all the kids are digging, is to find the other two. There's literally a shot, and like Indy kind of looks at it and he goes, "Oh man, yeah, I wonder where he'll ever find them." Like it's kind of, I don't know. I feel like it's clocked that. They're just. I think I don't know. I think that's them, and I don't know. It's really funny. It's the same room. Like literally, they're just right there. Like if it is that, I don't know. But it at least Indy. It felt like to me that Indy kind of looked at it and was kind of like, "Oh, I want," just kind of like, I wonder where they could be. But
yeah, no, I've never clocked that.
Wrong.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
Speaking of the stones, can we talk about how just absurdly lucky it is that when Indy's hanging off the side with Malaram, he's fighting with Malaram, and literally of the stones that fall out of his little pouch, the last one to fall out is the one he needs. Yeah, yeah, like the one he has to keep.
Does he know?
Like, does he know, or is it just like, well, this is the only one I got, so like here you guys go. I don't.
Well,
I don't
that's
know
the thing is how it's probably got to be a particular one, I imagine. But like, it's there's a lot. I love a lot of the really funny beats in this movie. One of my favorite just comedic bits I've ever seen is whenever we learn the villain he's facing at the beginning's name. Whenever he goes, "So long, Lao Che." And then he shuts the plane door and it says Lao Che Air Freight. And you're like, well, this isn't going to go well. I love that beat. I love I love everything that happens on the plane. Whenever people complain about what happens in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I'll save that, because I don't think Joe knows anything about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I think it's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Whenever they complain about what is fucking awesome in that as being unrealistic, I'm like, they dove out of a plane in a fucking raft and slid down a mountain, okay? Like, they go splat if we're talking realism. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. And not just that. They went down. Fact that I don't know. And then off the waterfall, too. Yeah. Like, they already took the first initial thing, and then see
the way the wind would fucking upend that raft, even with them in it, like you can see it trying to float around in the wind.
It's like, fuck realism. I don't want realism. Like that's why it's.
There. Did anyone else catch the pilots like sneaking off the plane and just the little giggles they have, like as they're so like comically evil? It's like they're just like.
Man,
like they're like evil henchmen, like 1940s vibe, like henchmen, like
it really is just chaos the whole time,
beginning to end.
They are just like, I mean, it's like you just said, like that one shot of him shutting the plane door, and it's like, oh, of course, you're like, just when you think it's like, just when you think he's finally gonna settle down, and we're gonna get some time to chill. Well, No, we're.
It's interesting to say that because, like in Raiders, there's so many of those points where, like, oh, he goes back and he meets with Brody, or oh, he's sitting down and negotiating, or he's sitting down and doing, like, I don't want to say research, but he's trying to deduce a clue, do something. He's plotting with Salah, whatever it is. Like, there's so many of those little breaks from the like kind of action, chaos, intensity, whatever, in those movies. And even when you get those moments in this movie, they're so short-lived. Like, it doesn't take very long to snap back. Like the moment with, so, I mean, you can think in Raiders, he has the moments where, like, maybe there's a break from the action and him and Marion are having a tender moment or whatever. In this movie, that's about to happen with Willie, and then he loses it and goes into they uncover the temple.
Well,
that's
and even
how quickly it just, nope, we're going to
even what would have been the restful period is interrupted by sexual angst. Both of them are nervous as shit, pacing around their room, and like, she thinks I'm fucking, god damn it, he's not coming, she's not coming.
I did love that.
I love that whole scene, dude, and I love when he bursts in after getting, then he gets an assassination attempt. They hang a dude by a whip from the ceiling fan, and then when he goes in and he like feels up the statue and then like puts his hands on her boobs and then she's like, I'm right here. And she's like, be gentle with me, gentle with me. And like, she follows him around the room and she's like, what are you doing? I'm right. Yeah,
Man.
like I love the chemistry. It's so fucking stupid. And there's something for me that works there, and I really appreciate it. But there's always something that I can really get behind whenever, a liberation story, and we do have child slavery in this movie. And I love everything that happens to save them after Short Round breaks out of his chains, and we get that shot of him like running through from behind him, and like he swings on the rope and climbs up and stuff. Sets Indy free, and that's when we get the whole "I love you, Indy." Wake up, Indy. It's so cool. But whenever Indy's like, "We're getting out, all of us," and then it's that shot of him silhouetted against the shining tunnel. He's there to save them. It's so fucking cool, dude.
Oh man, no, those are.
I do like his costume design in this movie. Like, we're talking about younger Indy. He's like. Just blatantly more sexy looking, like he's got like the chest all popped out. He's like
this is actually kind of credited
like,
for being what started actors getting fucking ripped for blockbuster roles. Yeah, Harrison Ford in Temple of Doom.
I mean, he definitely has.
No,
he definitely has more like muscular tone, and like they went a long way, and he did too, to like make sure his look was a little more chiseled. Like I mean,
we're used to steroids.
They definitely did
with
that.
our heroes and Chris Evans. Just massive people. But there's something about just the one sleeve being ripped off in the sweat.
I love it. The glistening.
The glimmer.
I love it. But there was a tweet the other day that was it was like whoever's about to lead the new Jurassic movie. And it was like this person training to lead Jurassic World, whatever. Why the fuck are you training to lead a Jurassic Park movie? Like, wasn't the entire thing about Jurassic Park that was endearing was that Sam Neill is just a fucking guy? You know what I'm saying? Like, he's smart. Like, what are we doing here?
Well, and even like, okay, thinking back to like Jurassic Park, like Jeff Goldblum probably has some of the better stretches where, like, I guess you could say he's
the
supposed
sexy
to be
one,
the token,
but he's not
like,
huge,
sexy-ish guy, but he's like mad intelligent. No, and he has his moment where like I think
he's laying across the table and he's got the V going. Yeah, like, I remember it.
And he's pretty muscular, but it's not like drastically ridiculous. But also they set him up as a very like smart and intelligent guy. So it's not the same. He's like charismatic, charming, like whatever.
And
then
obviously
just
this is
to
also
be, like,
84,
like,
so
not
Terminator
like
comes out this year. Arnold is really rising to fame. Sylvester Stallone is popping up in Rambo and stuff. Like, this is just kind of the era where that's starting to take effect, and I probably shouldn't have said that this is credited with starting
it's so
that,
cool to, like,
but like it's a factor in it, like Harrison Ford. I don't want to say he's old because he's not. He's like 40 something in this movie, but like he's not a young man comparatively to a lot of young stars modernly. I'm pretty sure come this point he was 42. Yeah, 42. He's 42 in this movie, which is pretty impressive. That man's cut. And he looks good. He looks real good.
Okay.
And that's a tough thing to do, after playing, probably about 40 to go, okay, now I'm playing 30, because I think this is about 10 years before Raiders, I think is the idea. And he emanates that. He does bring that vibe, beyond looks, but just like the sheer persona of Indy is obviously not quite as evolved as we see it in Raiders. And I used to credit that to being kind of a conformity to the typical 80s action star. I even said that last week, but that was completely recontextualized for me on this watch whenever I realized he's much more a cowboy than he is an 80s action star in this. And, I mean, but like, that's what's cool about this is I think that there's no better example of genre blending in one of these Spielberg indie movies than this one. We've got sort of a travelogue epic with a full horror twist, and it sits in that action adventure home that Indiana Jones lives, you know? So like, there's just so much packed into such a fun, exciting pack. And I think that that's fucking awesome, man. It just makes me so happy to watch.
Yeah, I mean, my main gripe kind of it was, you know, there's some racist things and things that are or whatever, but that aside, it would be the relationship. But then after kind of talking through it, like it's just annoying during the time, but like that is the point. It's kind of like Joffrey or Kristen Cole, the actors for those characters, getting just like real life death threats whenever it's like they're playing a role. Like if you're giving this person a death threat, you're giving them the old like a really good compliment. They're doing their job very, very well. And yeah, she does play this role very, very well. And it is nice, like at the end, you know, she hates being outside and doesn't want to get dirty, whatever, but then at the end it's like, I don't know, she's embraced it all kind of, but still has her diamonds.
If you think that I'm going anywhere with you, you know, like, this is not my idea of fun. You know, I love the end. And this is, I'd forgotten that this is where the whip comes from, the whip and reel her in thing.
Wait, this is the origin of that? Like,
well, I mean,
like that
origin of that for Indy. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Like, just like as like a, you know, because there's like the, I guess,
rope.
Hey,
that's more of like
are
a lasso
westerns.
But
hey, there's
more
another.
More cowboy.
You know,
okay.
yeah, it probably does originate
how
from
does
westerns.
he whip her? How does he whip her? And it's like hard enough to wrap around her, but not hard enough to.
He's got a magical whip, dude. It doesn't
My
matter.
boy is
He's
he's
deft.
either so smooth or the whip has a conscience. That's it. It's either
it's all in the wrist, you know. He's
the finesse.
He does.
He's got
He's
the
just
finesse.
like that.
Indy is just.
I need to see that man. I need to see this man swing a 60-degree wedge. I just know he's flipping them things. I just know he's spinning that shit. I just know he's spinning that.
My line comes from whenever they're having the sexy back and forth of, you know, I don't know, just after the. I don't know if it's before or after when they say they're
Nocturnal
they're actually going to
activities.
spend 5 minutes apart or you won't last it. But so you're an authority in that area.
So
yeah, he
crazy.
had like
That
years of
so
field work.
crazy.
You know, it's just he's so like
God.
it's so cheesy,
Yeah.
but like it just works. Like in the scene, it's so good. I don't know. It was so perfect, and I don't know. I get the romance,
And I love the framing of that moment too, you know, like whenever she kicks him out, like we go to the other side of the door and Willie opens one side and she's like, I'm not that easy, Dr. Jones. And he opens his side of the door and reveals him and he's like, neither am I. You're just so used to getting your way. Like, I just love the way it's shot. Like there's such a dynamic energy to everything that happens in this movie. And I absolutely adore it.
I think like it plays like I don't want to say it plays like a tennis match, but like as far as the shooting in the like way they go, it's literally back and forth. Like that, I love that like pacing and shooting of it. It just like it pulls you into that even more, like that, just like, oh, like who's gonna like outsmart the other, kind of like who's gonna give in, like that. Like, I just love the way that is shot. Like you said, the camera, the back and forth, the like just constant, like they're going at it. I mean, it's not to say that they're competing, but in a way, you know, neither of them wants to be the one to do it first. And so like that, it's just a great trope.
Short Round on the bed, chilling, asleep. You know,
Speaking of which, the line where when him and Short Round walk in and Indy's about to, I'm gonna go check on Willie. He goes, that better be all you're going to do.
Oh, dude, come on.
Tell me what happens. Yeah, and then he's like, tell me what happens when you get back. You know, like I loved that shit, dude. And I love the obvious reverence he has for Indy. Whenever she's like, Indiana, and he's like, you call him Dr. Jones. I loved that whole thing. It's so fucking adorable, man.
Call him Dr. Jones, doll.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Dude, it's wonderful. I just love that whole sequence. Wear your jewels to bed, princess. Yeah, and nothing else. Shock you? Nothing shocks me. I'm a scientist. I just
horny.
like they're playing out.
Horny.
Yeah, so horny. They're basically doing porno dialogue.
Can you imagine? This is great grandfathers risen back in the day. This is the game they were spinning back in the day.
Mm-hmm. I mean, people definitely watched this movie, left the theater that night, and tried this on somebody. Like that is a human that exists out there in the world in the 80s.
Dude, I'm sorry. We've been talking about how blatantly sexy Harrison Ford is. You think there weren't women who were literally just melted into the seat at the freaking movie theater hearing him say nocturnal activity? They were just putty in his
puddles.
You're right. I mean, this basically is porn for 1984. I mean, if we're being for real in the theater. So yeah, they were really getting wild. George and good old Lucas and Spielberg. I don't know. They're really going wild. The divorce mode, divorce director mode is very interesting.
Yeah, they go in, to be sure. Gosh, I
still love how like much pride there is in just the details and the fine like technique of movie making. Like it's just even in a movie like this where we're talking about, like, I don't want to say we've said it all too many negative things, but the blatant flaws and critiques that this movie brings upon itself, like there's still just that never is lost in these movies. Like the just attention to the stunt work, the set building, the effects, visual, sound, all like it all just melds. Like it's impossible not to keep. Let me put it this way, I guess. There are movies that maybe have a decent story or they have good things going for it, but like just the little details are things that like keep you just so engrossed in the movie, even in those periods where maybe, hey, it's not exactly unreasonable to think I might like tune out for like 2 minutes and look at something like these movies just don't ever give you that chance, even when there's lulls in the story. Like, try to think of like, oh, hey, I can go to the bathroom right now. Well, wait, hang on a second. I know there's about to be a stunt work thing that's like just so incredible. I don't want to miss that. Or the sound is just keeping me.
I love the sound. There's a
lot
of great. There's a lot of great sound.
Every little
Easter eggs
thing
in this also. We do get a lightsaber sound effect.
There's Wilhelm scream.
There's a lightsaber sound effect.
I heard this.
Whenever Willie is about to be lowered down into the pit and the pit opens, the sound it makes when it opens is a like a lightsaber hiss. I thought I heard it. I literally like snapped up because I was like watching. Skywalker sound, man. Obviously Wilhelm screams. The sound of the hyperdrive failing is actual jet engines failing. So whenever they run out of gas in the plane, you hear that. Like that's. We know that as Star Wars fans, as the Millennium Falcon sound, but like that's what planes actually do. So like, it's just, so like I hear it and I'm like Millennium Falcon hyperdrive failing, but like that's not it's actually just jet engines. But yeah, the lightsaber hiss was the one that I wanted to point out. That's a fun detail. There's a lot of Easter eggs. Yeah. The club they're in at the beginning is called Club Obi-Wan. Yeah.
Yep.
No, it's the sign. It's just a sign outside.
It's on the sign.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I'm like, I missed that.
At Disneyland, when you walk through the queue for the Indiana Jones ride, there's like a little office space, and it's got a box on it that says "Ship to Club Obi-Wan," and so like there's cool things like that. But one of the sound things that I wanted to give like a shout out to was when he's fighting on the conveyor belt, and he's fighting that just absolutely massive specimen. It's always the most ridiculously large human at this stage in the movie. Okay, time out. We're going back to Raiders, and we are checking at what time he fights that big ass dude in the plane.
That's what I was going to say.
I would be
Does he have
willing
to fight
to
a big guy every time?
Within 7 minutes of each other, he fights this other big guy on the conveyor belt in Temple of Doom. But that scene is just great. You've got the third party thing with Short Round and the kid with the voodoo dolls. So Indy's fighting this guy, but also fighting something he can't see, and he's but anyway, that moment, that this whole span is just great. Short Round finally gets the knife out of Indy right as his head's about to get crushed. The score swells and his head pops up all in once simultaneously, and he starts getting the upper hand again. Finally, he crushes the guy. And when he crushes the guy is screaming like bloody murder as any human would naturally. He's screaming. And the scream sounds like clear cut as plain as day. But then all of a sudden you see the guy get up to like here, and the scream, instead of being just loud, it's like a gargly,
the
like
blood
filled,
the
like there is liquid now in his yeah. Oh, man.
One of my favorite shots.
Yum. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love it, dude.
That
And I love
there,
the visuals
like
of that
sound.
sequence. There's such a kinetic camera going on, and I love the voodoo doll thing. I love that. That's what's keeping Indy from succeeding. Is Short Round has to help him by unstabbing the voodoo doll. Yeah. This shot whenever they show Short Round up on the platform beating the shit out of the Maharaja kid, and then they pan over and Indy's doing the exact same thing to the big dude. Dude, I love that shit. Yeah, it's on the ground. It's like, yeah, get
and
it.
then Willie is
it's fucking awesome, man. And then we get the whole mind chase. Like that's a part of the movie that tends to slip through the cracks for me, but that's fucking awesome.
Is that the ride? Is that the Indiana?
No, well, so the ride it's different. It doesn't.
Really?
It's more
they didn't
like
just
a Jeep
take that
type
as
car.
the opportunity,
and then it's a different story for like a different. I think it's called the Indiana Jones. The Temple of something. So, but it's not the exact same.
Pisses me off now a little bit.
But they do have a minecart from the movie in the ride queue. When you walk out, it's sitting there on the side, and you can see it.
Man.
I actually touched it.
I mean, I thought for sure. I was like, while watching this, I'm like, seeing this sequence,
there's
I'm like,
bit
this
of an
has to
element
be the ride,
to it,
right?
that's
Like they
been
have
done.
to like have just made this real.
There's like if you get in like any of the roller coaster simulator things at an arcade, this is something you can do. You know what I'm saying? Like there's even shots in this where I've been like, I don't know where or when, but I've like legit experienced this. Obviously, I wasn't in it. You know, I wasn't in it, but like I've been there, you know, like the POV shots of them like flying through and stuff.
Yes.
I feel like those roller coaster simulators always have like a old mine level or something, you know. Remind me of a Wario's Gold Mine in Mario Kart. I don't remember if you guys fucked with that. Yeah. And there's a little bit of that going on.
Okay.
That's a fact.
If you ain't fucking with Mario Kart, you ain't fucking with
the door
podcast.
No,
door.
Man, it's and I love the final moments whenever they arrive. They walk up to the village, and then the kids come flooding, and the village celebrates and all that. Like it's so fun, man. And it's really cute. I love the culmination of this thing. I love the shots whenever you know Willie, Short Round, and Indy all have keys and they're unlocking shackles and stuff. Like there's just a lot of stuff that puts a big old fucking smile on my face at the end of this movie. You know, like I'm just smiling ear to ear watching it. And that's like, you know, I find The Last Crusade to be the most emotionally fulfilling, for different reasons than the other ones. And Raiders has this classicness to it. Like, I like all of them on a different fucking level. You know, like Raiders has this classicness to it. It possesses my loyalty in a way because I just love it so dearly. This is fun as fuck. And that it makes me happy as shit. The Last Crusade moves me, actually. The Dial of Destiny actually does too. And the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is also just fuck. So like there's just a lot to like here. And I'm deeply appreciative of it.
Yeah, I don't want to say this sounds very wrong. It's like almost in the vein of that it's so bad it's good, but it's only like only Indy, like just the relationship in the movie, I guess. Like that was my main gripe, is just like how it was just annoying, and like the screaming event. Like it's funny at one point, but then eventually it does just get annoying. Like at one point, like I think like eventually, and so like I was trying to come away of like how to think about it, like why they would choose to have this relationship dynamic, and it is like prequel indie to show. I don't know, like this is
whenever he goes,
it wasn't
going to
work out.
room,
You know, this isn't
in the first place. You're already in a position where you're like
indie, but
I think
it's just because she's a woman who's there. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why.
Yeah,
she's hot.
It's very much like he's young, and this kind of makes sense for what yeah, exactly. Like, oh, he's young enough that like he's willing to risk it. He knows that this
Willie
probably
Scott's
isn't going to work.
Never
but
mentioned
against
again.
his better judgment,
Never relevant again.
Send it anyway. He'll chase after it anyway.
Yeah, because it's like their kisses and stuff. Like the end feels good and fulfilling.
No, yeah,
but like
and the romance isn't the point.
That they
you know,
have,
like
it's
just an extra
like,
little
you don't really
layer
feel
of the
much.
cowboy.
You know, there's not like
the
much there, and now
like it's just a fun. It's a fun beat. It's not really supposed to be like, oh, I've wanted this for so long.
Yeah,
it's just it's supposed to feel a little classic, you know. And I think that it does that.
Major.
There's a certain when it comes to Willie Scott in this movie, I'd be willing to bet Sam Raimi specifically really liked the portrayal of Willie Scott and his direction of Kirsten Dunst and in the Spider-Man trilogy. It was like, so have you ever seen Temple of Doom? Yeah, just scream like that, okay? Just that's all I need, and we'll be good. Because I mean, like, I think Kirsten Dunst is incredible, and she's a fantastic actress. Sam Raimi and the writers room did her no fucking favors at all in that trilogy. So like, but like that's one of those things where I'm like, that's one of the modern, and you know, you mentioned the superhero movies with James Gunn and stuff and Scooby-Doo. Like, I feel like one of the modern equivalents in terms of this campiness and this excitement and this blend of genres is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. I think there's a certain degree of reverence that he almost certainly had for the Indiana Jones movies. And I think that's I mean, it's almost a certainty, you know, but I mean, Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, I think, came out in the exact same years as Raiders and Temple of Doom, which is cool. So it's not like he was a kid, but like he was making movies at the same time, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, how do you just not grow up liking this too? Like, if this was out in the theaters while you were a kid, or like even my age, like if I was my age, this was coming out. Like this is
Star Wars. You know, like
this would be
Star
the
Wars
Marvel
just ended the year prior.
Like
Return of the Jedi was 83.
The franchise
Harrison Ford's
that I
on
would
top
know.
of the fucking world. One of the most famous men alive. Spielberg had made Jaws and Raiders and all sorts of Close Encounters, just plenty of stuff, you know. And so it's just, yeah, let's do this shit. 82. It was in between Empire and this.
When was Blade Runner?
The run he went on: 80 Empire, 81 Raiders,
Holy
82
shit,
Blade
man.
Runner,
That's
83
just
Return
a
of the Jedi,
crazy
84
run
Temple
right
of
there.
Doom. 1979, Apocalypse Now. 1978, I can't remember anything of note. 1977,
My
Star Wars.
goodness.
So
That
like,
is just unreal.
the dude was just in classic after classic for years.
Stop.
The run he went
man.
on was
Damn.
absolutely insane. Yeah, Blade Runner was 82.
The man.
It's,
Yeah, I mean, I ended up
That's
going
Yeah, when
with
he-
him for my performance.
Yeah,
Here,
yeah.
I don't know, going all crazy mode, demon mode, and then having to
The candles,
you know, just
whenever
the literal,
whenever
like,
it's like
transformation,
shadowed, and then he
on the
comes into the
out
light,
of
and he's
whatever
like
room
smiling.
he was
all
in with all the
crazy. Yeah,
candles.
like,
That
he's
looked cool.
really good in this, man.
dude,
Yeah.
no, he does do his physical acting, some of this was great. Like the voodoo doll sequences, like, I mean, you're obviously anytime you're getting punched or anytime you're in a like fight, like whether it's voodoo or not, like, yeah, you're acting like you just got punched in the face. But like something about like he's fighting, so he's reacting to this, but then simultaneously as he reacts to a punch, and I guess some of this is stunt guys. So I mean, maybe I'm inflating it to a degree, but either way, I just think that's such a great strength for this. Like some of the stuff that was required of that character in this movie, whether it was stunt people doing it or whether it was Harrison Ford or whatever, it was very good. Like. His voice is just like I can't stop like coming back to that after talking about it last week. I'll talk about it again. Like just the way he can strain his voice to express like whether it's urgency when he's screaming at Willie, like, or it's like just screaming in pain. You know, like there's something about the inflection and the way he can do that. Like there's such a I don't know. It feels so singular to him and Indiana Jones. Like I'm struggling to place it on someone who like I can just picture that. Like if you just read me in a plain voice, like a line from when he screams it,
right?
Like just plainly read it in a normal voice, I would hear it in my head, like how he screamed it, like all chaotically, like painfully, whatever it is. Like he just I don't know. There's such a knack there, and I don't know.
The acting prowess
like
of the man. I mean, there's a reason he was in everything. I guess, and was the man. It is kind of a lost. Like you don't really have guys like him anymore. Movies are just different.
I tell you what, it makes me really excited for Dial of Destiny. Having tuned into all these, and I know, like I said, I haven't seen that one, so I'll be doing the first watch before we talk about it, but. I'm just interested to see like how does that carry over? Like some of the things that I just in my head I define Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford as like what comes to mind when I think of those characters. I think of the way he speaks and talks and yells and screams or whatever, all of those things. The way it sounds like it's so singular to him. Like at this age in that movie, how does that? I'm curious.
Well,
to see
and that's
that
the thing
holds
too
up.
is that Harrison Ford
I don't
has
really
such a
want to know.
reverence
I'm not
for the
like
character.
scared. I'll always have faith in my
I think
guy.
Dial of Destiny catches.
You know, but. Well, and here's what I was gonna say. I remember I got a haircut about it. Like whenever right before Dial of Destiny came out, there was a magazine. He was talking about why he came to do it. Because if people know the history of Harrison Ford and how he feels about working his job, he doesn't always like doing that shit like at all. Like he kind of is just a regular guy who hates his job sometimes and does not want to be there or do it. Even Star Wars, like something that he is as beloved in
if his character
was
a Force ghost in
blatantly
episode 9,
did not love doing it after a certain
point. I don't fucking care.
So I'm just like,
yeah, it was
Did he say he'd literally rather die? Like I'd rather kill myself.
It's something about the holiday special.
There was
I think like
someone asked him a question of if you were to return.
It's not the most tasteful quote, but he definitely
there's a great
something
interview
like if your character were to return,
because he came back for Blade Runner 2049 a few years ago to reprise his role from Blade Runner. And he was
they're like,
oh no, like him, Ryan Gosling, and the interviewer who like asked him like what did it what did they say to you, and he was like, I just looked at him. I said one thing: "Show me the money." Like that's what he said. Like he's like, I don't give a fuck. Show me the money. It's a job, you know.
Oh man, he's too good.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is he's.
I
it's
know
different
that,
with
like,
Indy.
I
it's
have
way
faith
different
in
with
his
Indy.
performance
You know,
in this
like
upcoming movie
Indy,
just 'cause,
he
like,
holds
I
such a
know-
reverence for.
I know
loves
he
the
only
character,
loves the
and
character so much that he would
there
come
was
back
a lot
and do it.
a lot of disappointment over the fact that James.
I know you just said,
Mangold
"Oh, show me the
helms
money,"
episode-
but
the fifth
like
movie,
the way
and
he
not
talks
Spielberg,
about this
you know,
character
and,
is
like,
so
is anybody
different
fit to
than
take
anything
Indy
else.
from Spielberg's hands? And I'd argue no, but ultimately it kind of anchors the idea that Ford is the heart of this character, while Spielberg is kind of the heart of the movies themselves, is kind of how I look at Dial of Destiny. And you'll be pleased with him, to be sure, when it comes to Dial of Destiny, because I love him in that movie. It's a wonderful, wonderful conclusion, because there's no more. That was it. I mean, like, the end of 3 will leave you going, wow, perfect ending. The end of 4 will go, oh wow, perfect ending. The end of 5 will make you go, okay, well, that's actually it, you know? Perfect ending, you know?
I mean, man. Yeah.
Mm.
He's 82.
Well, and I mean,
Well,
I just still, like, I can't believe.
And
his
physicality is impressive,
like,
man.
I knew
like,
he was old.
The dude can get
movie.
it.
Don't like. I don't want it to be misconstrued. Like, I knew he was old, but to put it in perspective, like, north of 80 doing this movie is pretty, like, fucking crazy. Like, dude. No, yeah, yeah. I've seen, like, clips and stuff. I blows me away. I cred to him. Like, 80
I didn't know he was that
that
old. Holy.
And here's the thing. It's like we just talked about. Like, I just talked about how loyal and how truly, like, the care he has for this character in comparison to any of his others. Like, he would only do this movie in this role at this age if he really felt he could do it, or if he thought he could get himself to the point where physically, mentally, whatever it is, that he was, could give it what he wants the character to be. Yeah. It's like you see this with athletes all the time. They're like, I only want to be the player who I like. If I can't be this good or this level, I don't want to do it at all. It takes the joy, it takes the whatever out of it. Like, it seems very similar to how he holds this character, how he reveres this character in his own, work. Like, I want to be able to do it at the level that, it's more, it's not, I don't think it's about what people expect that character to be. It's what he expects it to be. Like, and that, it's a very, like, careful stewardship of this character, and just that doesn't always happen.
Think about the gap.
I mean? Like, that's kind of rare, like, to see someone play this character for this many years, for this many movies or whatever, and like really hold that level of care towards it.
I mean,
like,
this movie came out when he was 42.
It just makes it so much more enjoyable to know. Like,
and
I don't know, like, just knowing that a guy who really doesn't enjoy working, like, actually,
he's
like,
lived
really
as
does.
many years
it just makes
between
you like,
Temple of Doom
I really care about this
and Dial of
character,
Destiny as he had when he was in Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's there's a certain perspective you gain on your work, and a certain perspective you gain on, and a certain ownership you take over something so meaningful as something you've done for that long, and that people love that way, and that he loves that way. And the passion he possesses for this character bleeds through more than any other role he's ever done. There's a really good documentary that I wouldn't recommend until after Dial of Destiny, because it's called, like, Timeless Heroes, and it's about Harrison Ford. It's a Harrison Ford documentary about his relationship with Lucasfilm and Indiana Jones, and how Star Wars brought him through, but then Indy is what he fell in love with. And I remember I watched it at work like a year ago, and I was sitting in the back of the store, like, fucking crying, and someone was like, "What's wrong?" And I had to just, through tears, be like, "I just really love Indiana Jones." So whenever we do finish these movies, that's like the unofficial, you should watch that after we finish this, because it's worth your time. And to see him revere this character and his work with Spielberg and Mangold the way that he does, it's just so rare to see him like that. I remember the promotional material for Dial of Destiny where he was, like, nearly in tears in interviews talking about it. And it's like, you don't see Harrison Ford like that. Like, Harrison Ford is typically pretty, yeah, fuck, fucking, I don't know. He's having a tough time holding back, and I think that's why, like, I love Harrison Ford. I love him as Indiana Jones, and that's why ultimately all of these movies hit for me. There's always a passion behind them that you can just feel. And this one has a certain chaotic excitement behind it that I think is not replicated by any of the other ones.
I think that's kind of all the same praise we've given Harrison Ford right here. It goes the same for Spielberg. Like, Spielberg won't attach himself to something that he knows isn't up to his standard. And even if this movie isn't at the indie standard, it still meets like the cinema and the critical filmmaking standard. Like, it looks beautiful. Like, the sets are insane. Like, there's like when they're in a cave and it's like kind of, there's a red light coming from somewhere. I don't know if it's like is that real? Did they build that set? Is that a miniature and then it's like perspective? I don't know. If it was a set, that's insane. And then if not, it looked real enough and the shot it worked well enough to where I couldn't tell. And every other time, I mean, the sets are gorgeous. My favorite one, I think you said it was,
I would actually
the
disagree
minecart.
with that. I think Temple of Doom's a better looking
about to
movie
free
than
the kids
Raiders.
and the minecart illuminates them for the first time.
I think that there
was I don't know, like there's.
I
would say that Raiders
is
a more
they are going for something a little bit more
whole,
brash,
but this
like
just had its moments,
a little bit more striking.
Every now and
there's
then,
a little bit more of a washed out sensibility in the desert. You don't have as much you can do there, and I will say the high points of Raiders. Maybe
I think the color is a lot more.
I might take that back.
Right.
That's what I don't know. I'm remembering a lot of really, really nice visuals.
It's a well-shot
Raiders.
movie, though. Don't mistake it for
maybe more of like the camera work.
Like there's a shot of Indy.
I don't know.
I guess
about
to mention it before.
This was flashy, and a lot of the costume design, I think set design
is
maybe what's
half of his face is
heightening it.
Red light, and it's absolutely gorgeous,
I mean,
there's a shot whenever Willie, whenever they're sacrificing
that's fair.
the guy.
No, yeah.
The first time where Willie turns around and presses her back against the wall and her eyes are lit up and nothing else, everything else is dark. And like, it's a dramatic choice, that's not where the light's coming from. I love moments like that. And, there's whenever they're traveling through the cave and you see, I guess I should say there's a grandiosity to this that Raiders doesn't possess. That's more like there's a lot bigger wides and there's a lot more interesting, VFX shots are really, really big in this one too. I think I think won an Oscar for VFX. The rope bridge at the end, that whole sequence, whenever he's about to cut them down and he's standing in the middle and you see the wide of them all on the bridge, you just don't have an opportunity for a shot like that in Raiders, that's it. It's a completely different setting and a completely different place. And I love that moment.
My guy is gonna have fought in the most treacherous and precarious areas of you could ever imagine. Just this dude's basically playing Super Smash Bros on random maps.
Below.
Just that's where he's fighting at.
Side mission
strong
the whole
bridge,
time, right?
strong bridge.
He fights on a
I love that. I love that whole
rope
sequence.
bridge and fights suspended down the side of a cliff with hundreds of alligators, crocodiles, I don't know, whichever one, underneath him. Not just 10, hundreds. Has to be dramatic.
Yeah.
In Raiders, he's fighting on the midst of the truck. He's done that multiple times type stuff. He's fought on boats that are about to capsize. This dude's got a crazy history of just
James
the
Bond.
Fight settings are always so crazy.
He is just the Bond. Like, I don't know, the more you bring it up, I never would compare Bond and Indiana Jones, but then the more you just think of the similarities, it's just kind of clear. It's like if Bond
He's
just happened,
rugged James Bond.
Yeah, to be in the archaeology world.
There's definitely more of an everyman in Indy than there is in Bond.
True.
Like that's the vibe I get. Like I said, I don't know if it's much more like I wouldn't say everyman in the sense of like there's still the fears there. Like you wouldn't see James Bond being like deathly afraid of snakes, like literally like freaking out type mood. Like,
I love that the one time Willie doesn't get scared in this movie is of a snake, which Indy is afraid of. Obviously, she thinks it's the elephant's trunk, which is funny, but she's locked in. I love it. You know, there's living things everywhere. Yeah, that's why they call it the jungle, sweetheart. You know, I love the just everything, man. It's such a fun fucking movie. But do we have much else to speak on here?
I think I've covered all my faves. So
I can't wait to talk to Joe about Raiders, man. Or not Raiders,
Crusade.
Sorry, Crusade, Last Crusade. Yes, sir.
Seems I'm in for an emotional ride. Is what
Dude,
I wouldn't say it's.
There's just so much to love.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's gonna have you in.
There's some emotion.
Yeah, it's not like it's gonna have you fucking bawling or anything, but there's a resonance to it that it plays like what was originally supposed to be the conclusion of a trilogy. You know, like they.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
okay.
There's I don't know. I just like we talked about how in these movies the secondary characters, the sidekicks, and the whoever is kind of like teaming up with Indy are so important. It's my favorite, I think. Dynamic, I guess, of the three originals. I just think what it brings out of Indy
Speaking
in the
of
next
Bond,
one is just it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Speaking of James Bond,
it's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's super exciting. I'm very pleased.
Speaking of James
Daniel
Bond,
Craig is in it, Joe.
Daniel Craig is in it. Actually, fun little
Craig
connection. Daniel Craig is in an Indiana Jones thing.
Oh.
It's The Adventures of Young Indiana Jones. If you're ever interested in getting more Indy, played by Sean Patrick Flannery. It's young Indy on his adventures as a young lad. Super fun series.
Who's Daniel Craig?
He's just it's before Daniel Craig's a name.
Or
Yeah, he's just a working actor who has a role in one of those movies. And you're like, I remember watching and being like, that's fucking Daniel Craig, and he's like not particularly important, you know. You know, there's all sorts of people that pop up in that. Catherine Zeta-Jones, Ian McDiarmid, Christopher Lee is in one. The Lucasfilm connections are called in for the young Indy stuff. Harrison Ford's in one of those episodes, actually. It's just to give you another idea of how much he loves the character, is that he was like, yeah, I'll be in your fucking TV show playing old Indiana Jones. At the time when old Indy hadn't been conceptualized, you know, it's the first interpretation of what an old Indiana Jones would be like, and he shows up with a big beard, and he's got a saxophone. And it's no.
That's what Indy's doing in his old age. He's
wonderful.
He's playing the saxophone.
That's right. Jeffrey Wright is in a couple of them. Jeffrey Wright's in a couple of them. It's worth your time. You know, I mean, they were made as educational movies initially. They were meant to be shown in history class. Is kind of the goal. So it's not like something I'd be like, cool. You gotta binge this shit. No, if you're ever they are fun, and it becomes more about Indy as a character within the context of real historical events. Whereas the first few is really young Indy learning things about the world. And it's worth your time. I would recommend it if you're ever just itching for more Indiana Jones. It satisfies it for me, but, yeah, no, that's one of the things that's interesting is I'm pretty sure they confirmed that Indy can fly a plane in that. I'm pretty sure he does fly a plane in Young Indy, which they must have overlooked the beginning of Temple of Doom whenever he's just like, shouldn't be that hard. Altimeter.
No,
yeah.
can you?
Incredible.
Yeah.
Love his fuel. You know, I loved that. I love that whole sequence at the beginning. But yeah, no, what a fucking fun movie, man. But with that, I will do the plugs. If you would head to Twitter, follow at Cinementalists, spelt the way it is in the title of the podcast here. You get any updates on what we might be doing. You can follow me at Coro_Bloom. I can give you any other updates we might be doing. And you can follow at Penny Bloom Pod, which is the general umbrella we come from. It's a lot of fun. You can check us out anywhere. Hard to say what the state of things may be right now, as it's the second week of November, I think.
Mm-hmm. It is the 15th of November.
Yes. So Election Day was 4 days ago. We're living good, hopefully.
Crazy.
That's the disadvantage of recording
of
in advance, is we have no idea what the state of things are like right now.
Hopefully the internet's still up.
So
yeah. Hopefully
Happy early
you
Thanksgiving.
can still
Yeah,
hear
yes,
this
that as well.
episode on the internet, and it's accessible.
yeah, that'd be cool. Who knows if I'll be assassinated by the state. But yeah, we got a fun November lined up for you.
Damn, we got dark. We went dark there real quick, but that's okay.
Oh wait, no, Raiders was 3 or 4 days after Election Day. This is the next week, so it's been a week and a half. Yeah, it's been a week and a half. We're cool.
So,
We're cool,
okay,
then.
well,
You know,
it's really close to Thanksgiving.
we will be
Happy
covering
Thanksgiving.
Dial of Destiny the day after Thanksgiving, actually. So that's how November is lined up. Or wait, no, it might be Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Yeah, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull will be the day after Thanksgiving. We got Last Crusade next week, and then to kick off December, we'll get Dial of Destiny in for you. But yeah, so that's the lineup right now. We're doing Lord of the Rings trilogy after that. Right now, it's looking like we're probably doing a Rebels rewatch on Fulcrum, a Star Wars podcast, which is exciting. I'm very, very happy with that. And Penny Bloom is going strong with Dispatch every week and some other shit. So that's what we're up to. Leave a 5-star rate and review. Download wherever you might be listening. I'd appreciate it greatly. Let's rate this thing. On a scale of 1 to 10, Kyler, one number can be a 0.25 interval. How do you feel about Temple of Doom?
I'm going to go 9.
That's about exactly where I'm at.
We're all comfortably.
I'd go 9 out of 10.
Were we all at 10? For okay, so yeah, we were all there. Yeah, I mean, it's not quite the 10, that's for sure. But I'm still having.
Well, and I tried to think of what some of the other Indiana Jones movies might evoke out of me, and I definitely don't see this one. Like, it can't be within a half of Raiders, and there's something. The next one's definitely better than this, so it definitely can't. Yeah,
there had to be a gap.
Yeah, there's got to be.
No, and I'm with it. You know, like my gut took me 8.75 or 9. You know, but I think I am willing to give it that 9 bump simply for how happy it makes me. I love watching this movie, man. I love that it gave us Academy Award winner Ki Kwan. You know, he literally gets a now introducing credit in this movie. It was his first thing ever, which is very, very satisfying. So, yeah, I love the movie.
Go watch the video.
I think it's a lot better that people give.
Go watch the video of Kwan hugging Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford at the Academy Awards. Yes. Go watch it. If you
every time they see each other, they're like, "Oh my god, I love you!" You know, like it's so fucking awesome. I love it. I need them back together in some capacity. I need Ki Kwan to come back to Indy. I feel like they could. You know, Indy's done, but I feel like they could pick up, you know, the Adventures of Short Round or something and get Ki Kwan a little bit of a budget for something at this point. But yeah, are we all 9, Joe? Are you comfortable with that, or what are you thinking?
I think I'm there. I mean, I gave it a 4.5 on Letterboxd, so that would, you know, be a 9 if you were to go there, and I think that feels about right. It's still Indiana Jones. It's still, I mean, it made my favorites movie list, but it wasn't in the top 5 like Raiders.
Like Raiders. Yeah,
it's 61 is where it's at. It's below 2001: A Space Odyssey, The Shining, Monkey Man, Challengers. But I put it above some actual pretty good movies. I put it above Furiosa, 7, La Chimera, The Creator. So I mean, I was still having a good time. And even after talking through it, I liked it more after talking through it, which I think is good. I think upon rewatch, I'll only like it more. This will be one that can only get better over time. I think the worst watch is the first watch, maybe. I don't know if that seems right, but it seems right to me, at least.
I think there's a certain expectation built up after Raiders that might not pay off for you. But yeah, I've got it in the 80s in mine, so it's pretty high up there.
Yeah, that is still good praise for you. Which is crazy to say that, like, yeah, it's in my 80s, but comparatively to the amount,
I'm like, it's around a lot of my. I mean, you know what else is in the 80s? Dune Part 2, The Darjeeling Limited, Mission Impossible, Raging Bull.
Yeah, very good company.
It's fine, you know.
Mm-hmm. So,
but
okay,
yeah. Then with that, we will conclude this episode of The Cinementalists, and we'll be back next week with The Last Crusade. I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, homie.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And thank you very much, KBZ Kyler Barnett.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And remember, fortune and glory, kid. Fortune and glory.